But it was one of my hobbies, and for a while it was one of my main objectives in life. I spent probably a whole year, over a whole year, uh, just studying, reading, and writing the mathematics textbook constantly, day and night. So that's another thing about me. I'm very determined. I'm very persistent. When I get something, when I put something, when I set myself an objective, I usually achieve it. So after I dropped out, I bought myself a car, and I wanted to. We had always, my family, we had always been the kind of people that always try to do things on their own before calling someone else, and that's something very different to Canadian culture. Usually people hire somebody to wipe the snow from their own driveway, most Canadians. Usually, from my perspective of the Canadian culture, is usually hire the experts. Whatever it is, if you've never done it, then you don't do it. Whereas my actual culture, or my actual perspective, is the opposite. You try to do everything yourself. You go to YouTube, go to study it, read about it. And you only call someone to do it last case scenario. So when I first got we had always tinkered with cars, changed our engine oil. I always helped my father change the engine oil. If we maybe could change a shock absorber, we would do it. Of course, mainly because we wanted to save money. We were poor, right? So I had some experience, or some visual experience, from modern cars, because my parents always had fairly modern cars. And I hated how they were overly complicated. And so I was in my 20s, and I didn't have my own car, and everybody and my parents kept insisting, "Oh, you should buy a car, you should buy a car." And that's when I bought my first car, the famous 1963 Rambler American. I thought it was a great looking car, and I did a lot of research about it. It was the economy car of the year for 1963. So that's when I bought it, and initially it just needed an alternator or a battery changed, and over time it ended up needing a lot more than that. But that's how it all started. And as soon as I brought the car home the next day, I started playing with it. I had always been inquisitive. I had always liked disassembling things and trying to figure out how they work. And so that's how I say that the car bug bit me. What started with an alternator, I ended up liking what I was doing, and it required more things, and additional things had to be done to it. So I ended up turning a necessity into a business. And that's kind of the years that I struggle with. I struggle with a lot of things. If you've watched some of my first videos, I used to curse a lot. I used to be very angry, or sometimes very eccentric about things. Some people even suggested that I remove those videos, but those videos were part of my life and part of who I am. And so I'd like to keep. And so stay tuned. Battery's almost dead, so stay tuned for part 2.